All right, nurses on fire. I am super honored to have Catie Harris of NursePreneurs join us today. Hey, Catie, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And I really wanted to have you on because you really help nurses discover an expertise that they can turn into a business so that they can step away from the bedside if they want to, but really know that nursing is not just about working in hospitals. So, can we start by talking about or basically your nursing origin story?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I started nursing, I'm going to say 20 plus years ago. Feels like forever ago. But yeah, so I started out as a neuro nurse. And the two things that I said I would absolutely never do is work neuro and work nights. So my first job was a neuro job, one night shift. So that was the last time I ever challenged the universe and just kind of go with it. And it really did kind of, um, build my philosophy in nursing that I was like, all right, well, I'll just see where things go for me. And that was kind of my nursing career trajectory. Let's see what happens type of thing. And what ended up happening was I ended up working neuro for many, many years. And when I came back to Philadelphia, I just kept getting neuro jobs because most nurses don't like neuro at all. So the agency I was working for always had neuro positions, and then they wanted me in the neuro pool and neuro. But then I went and got my nurse practitioner degree, and of course the neurosurgeons want to work with me because I knew neuro, so I stayed in neuro. And then I did my PhD, and since the only thing I knew was neuro, I did my PhD on neuro. So that's where it kind of led me. But it also led me to a point where here I was with 20 years of experience in neuro. I have a PhD, an MBA, multiple master's degrees. And, I found myself still reporting to an intern. And it was just like everything that I had done up until that point, it was almost like it was for nothing almost. It was just really frustrating to talk to the intern, tell him what I did that day, and he'd say something stupid like, "Well, that's not what we do around here." And it's like, you got to be kidding me! Like that? What do you mean that's not what we do? How about if I call your attending, who I knew as a med student, and tell him what we do around here? So I just found myself getting really, really frustrated with the whole hospital system, and that my knowledge wasn't really being used for what I thought it should be used for.
Yeah, that's super frustrating, especially because interns know nothing.
It's so true.
So, what led you to, I'm assuming, first become a nursepreneur yourself and then create the brand Nursepreneur?
Yeah, so I had created several side businesses and was always doing something because I always need this. I always need to grow and learn something new. It's just one of those nuances about me that if I get stagnant and bored, then I become sloppy and useless. But so I'm always trying to look for what's the next thing that I can do. So I started out freelancing just my skill set as a neuro nurse practitioner to the surgeons at various hospitals. So I was working as a first assist in the OR with them and just as a contract NP. And I thought about, I should really turn this into a first assist for neurosurgeons, to put that skill set together. And then the next thing, was a transitional care business that I had to help stroke patients after they left the hospital. So it was all these kind of like side gigs that I had, but none of them were something that I could just leave the hospital for. And so the more it was just like another job that I kept adding jobs to my plate and, never kind of like releasing anything, just had more work for myself. So yeah, and it just got to the point where I was super frustrated in the hospital, and I would walk in and I found myself just angry in general. And, people would say, "Hey, Catie, how are you?" And I'm like, "What do you want?" And I'd just be like really angry all the time. And it was just not a good place for me to be. So I took a job with the College of Nursing at that point because I just needed a break. And I had just had my son. So he was a newborn, and I just needed a different quality of life. And while I was there, I actually got recruited by Walmart. So I ended up working for Walmart in their corporate management to help them with their clinics that they had down south. And one of the things that they had tasked me was finding nurse practitioners to be in the clinic. So, recruiting nurse practitioners to work those. And I thought, well, we should start a blog or something. So, I went into that rabbit hole of, well, how do I start a blog and how do I make money from a blog and blah, 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 blah. So that started my trajectory. And I saw all these opportunities kind of open up, different businesses that I could start. So I did start putting some stuff together. I put together a concierge nurse business, and that was my first real business. And I did a new grad nurse practitioner orientation, how to transition to practice, and other various types of smaller businesses like that. But at the same time, I had other nurse friends who were starting like NCLEX businesses. Another friend of mine was starting IV hydration and all these various different business types. And they would come to me because I have my MBA and I had this business experience, and I'd started putting my own businesses together. So I was working with them. And then I thought, well, I mean, this is something that I could definitely do. I love ideas. I'm an ideas person. So if you come to me and say, I don't know what I could do, I could, in 30 minutes tell you what you could do with a whole bunch of different things. And I thought, well, that's actually a business right there. And that's when I started with my own mentor and came up with the term nursepreneurs. And she's like, I love that. I'm like, I do too. I love that term. So that's where we really started to run with that.
Nice, nice. And I love the way that everything that you did, like in neuro, in just working on creating your blog, all those things were like little niches you could have just ran with. Why did you choose to focus on nursepreneur and helping other nurses find their niche and their expertise?
Oh, that's not to say I didn't run with all those other niches.
Right, right, right.
That was part of the learning process as well, because, every business seems like, one, that it's easier to do that business because so and so is making money in there, and that business looks easy because so and so is making money there. But when you try to do it yourself, it's kind of, you quickly become overwhelmed, and you get frustrated easily because the money doesn't just come pouring in the day you decide to open your business. And it really takes some concerted effort and a vision of what you're going to do for money to come to you. So I did try an awful lot of various different business models, that I just thought looked easier than what I was doing. And it's never easier. It's just, what are you passionate about? What problem do you have that you're solving, and what is the solution? So really trying to stay focused and build the marketing piece of it. Because once I had the business model, then it was just kind of like, all right, well, how do I get this in front of people so that they know what I have and they believe that I can help them? And that just took me on this road to marketing that I'm still on, and just learning. And I spend all my time and money in marketing at this point.
I love it. Well, if you don't have marketing, you don't have a business.
It's
So
true.
that's probably one thing you had to learn too. And I've definitely had to learn that too. So, as far as like right now in this current pandemic, we have a lot of nurses looking to shift their focus. If they're not in at the bedside, they might have been impacted as far as getting hours cut, their demand going down, or just totally being furloughed or laid off. Or if they're at the bedside, then they're in undesirable roles because they're actually putting themselves at risk every day. And so, more than ever, I have seen, especially in my audience, people looking to make pivots. So, for a nurse that they've been doing neuro for 20 years and that's all they know, how do you help guide them in becoming a nursepreneur?
Well, it does really start with that conversation of like, what is it that you are actually really good at, and what is it that you've helped people to do? And a lot of times it's the little things that people dismiss. I'm like, oh, that's nothing. And I'm like, no, 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 that's let's go back to that. Because, and I have students that are, they're, first of all, they're all over the map, but I have one student in particular who does grief recovery. And she was a nurse in the Las Vegas shooting. She lost her husband, she lost her father, she had all these losses, and yet she was the person that everybody went to in order to, when they had a loss of some sort. So she had this huge history of not only grieving herself but supporting other people. And I said, what, you seem to be the most passionate about that, you speak about it the most, And I said that could actually be a business. And that was the part that she didn't understand. And that's the part that most nurses don't understand, that what you're best at and what you enjoy doing the most, there is potentially a business model in that aspect. So for this student in particular, we're working on support type programs that she can help, such as like spouses that are grieving the loss of COVID. Oh my gosh, that didn't make sense. People that have COVID that died and lost a spouse. So now they can be in her support system and her support group, and she does this coaching and one-on-one support, and it's just something that is growing from that. And you can do that for in oncology. You can do it in a whole bunch of different ways, and there's a whole product that could go along with that, such as making memory kits for oncology patients that are dying, right? And maybe they want to leave a legacy for their family. So, and the ideas just start coming; they just start pouring in as you talk to your audience. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing that I would say, is to do an inventory of your skill set, what you're good at, what you like doing, and then find an audience and just listen to them. Just listen to what they have to say, because you'll find the problem and then you can learn to offer the solution from there.
What would you say to nurses who feel like they can never replace their hospital income or their current income?
Um, yeah, I think it's a hard mental barrier to get over, but it's not. To me, that's a kind of a personal issue that you may have, that you think that you can't replace your income. Because if you have the right problem and you have a defined audience that's willing to pay you for that problem, I mean, you can very easily replace your income. So, for example, what I teach in my course is high ticket sales. So, we do coaching programs for 2,500 plus, right? So, I mean, I only need 4 clients. I mean, my program is much more expensive. I need 1 client to, a month, or 2 clients a month to replace, a 6-figure income, whereas my students are doing like 3 or 4 clients a month and replacing their nursing income. And if you think about um, how many people there are in the world that have the issue or the problem that you're talking about, slicing off 3 or 4 people a month with the right system in place is not actually that hard.
Right. What about the benefits? But the benefits of being, that you get with being a nurse are so good. You have good insurance, your 401k, all those things are so hard to give up.
They are hard to give up, and yeah, I would definitely not quit your job until you have all of that in line. You're gonna have to have enough money that you can hire a financial planner and a tax accountant and stuff, and figure that stuff out before you make the leap. I would never give that stuff up until you have a plan and you have some money in the bank in case, for whatever reason, let's say the COVID pandemic, for whatever reason, ruins your business and you're going to be out of income for like 3 months. You need to be able to cover your expenses, or at least have business interruption insurance.
Love that. I love that. That's really good advice. So, I'm a nurse. I'm ready to take that leap. How do I become a nursepreneur?
Well, the first thing I would do is have a conversation with you and list out your skill set. Like I said, just really find out what it is that you like to do. Because if you want to be a speaker but you don't like being on stage, it's a problem, right? Or some of these business models, let's say IV hydration or concierge nursing, for instance. I have a lot of nurses that want to start those type of businesses, but they don't know doctors. And I have one student in particular who does pain management, and she's like, oh, I should incorporate IV hydration. And I said, that's great, but you need a medical director. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, like, you have to go out and get a medical director before we even talk about this. I'm not wasting my time on this topic with you until that happens. And nurses that don't know doctors, or they don't know how to find one, or they don't have a relationship, or they're not willing to like create one with them, they're not going to have that business model. So maybe that's not the best for you. Maybe you would be more interested in content writing, where you don't have to interact with physicians or whoever it is that, so just understanding your personality and what you like to do, I think is really vital before you pick your audience.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Like, I like a lot of people. don't understand the intricacies. And I think that's the importance of working with a coach. And I know that you've mentioned that you've had a mentor and you have coaching yourself. Can you just talk a little bit more of about the benefits of working with a coach or a mentor to direct you in starting a business instead of just, Googling? We can Google everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and you can also find a million reasons not to do something. And that was, to me, the biggest issues in business have all been personal issues that I've had. So a business mentor is good at calling you out on those kind of things because the business itself is pretty straightforward. You come up with a problem, you come up with a solution, you put it in front of people who need it, and then ask them for money. But it's all the in between stuff. It's like, all right, well, who am I to solve this problem? Or, I don't have the right credentials, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm not, whatever it is that you're not enough of, that's a personal problem. It's not a business problem. I had another student who told me that, she didn't want to charge her friends and family. And I said, well, okay, fine. That's not a business problem, and that's a personal issue. Like, go out and find new clients then. You don't treat your friends and family. But we all have these mental blocks, and the mentor doesn't have the same block that you have. I mean, obviously they're going to have their own blocks, but they can quite easily see through what you're saying and just say, that's not a business problem. Maybe you need to work that out with a therapist or something. I don't know. And I've had my own therapy issues that I've had to deal with just to get the business moving. But I think it's important. And it's been one of the biggest benefits of starting a business is for me has been personal development.
And so, this is a podcast for nurses who are aspiring to financial independence. How do you think entrepreneurship or nursepreneurship, in this case, can set you on a path to financial freedom?
So yeah, and I definitely want to make the distinguish the entrepreneurship and wealth building because I think there's a big, huge difference there. Because I do have a lot of nurses come in and say, I want to make a lot of money really fast and not do anything for it. And it's just kind of like, okay, well, for entrepreneurship, it's about investing in yourself as kind of the solution. Whereas to me, wealth building is investing in other people to provide the solution, right? Like I want to buy stock in Facebook or Microsoft, and Mark can go solve all the problems, and I'll just benefit from it, or that kind of thought process. But in entrepreneurship, you're saying, all right, I'm going to be the one that goes out and solves this problem, and I'm going to invest money in myself, my learning process, and I have the self confidence to deliver the solution. And you have to be that type of person that is willing to search for problems and provide solutions and also ask people for money, which is also another personal issue that a lot of us have, especially when you're starting out in entrepreneurialism. So
I really love that distinction. And actually, that's the first time that I've heard it articulated so well, but it's super true, and it's super important to understand because I think the core difference in investing and believing in yourself as opposed to just relying on outside sources to build your income is, I mean, mind blowing. Like really, like understanding that in order to be an entrepreneur, that's your goal. That's your focus, is making sure that you're investing in yourself and believing in yourself. And the sky's the limit there. So that is so awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that because I've never even thought about it like that, but it's 100% true. Okay, so how can people reach out to you? How can they get in contact with you?
well, they can go to my website, which is catieharris.com, and on there I have the Nursepreneur Guide, which is actually 100 plus nurse businesses that already exist, and they're there to inspire you. I have their websites, their mission, kind of what they're doing. So go check them out and see what everybody's doing, and maybe something will resonate with you, and you'll say, oh my gosh, like I can do this. Other people are doing it, and I think that's having role models is the best part of all of this, and that was really the kind of the inspiration of Nursepreneurs is to create a bunch of role models to inspire nurses to live their dream.
And before we go, I like to ask, like, what money mistakes have you made that you've rolled into your courses or your trainings to ensure that we don't make those same mistakes? Because I think that's another value that you get from coaching is that you get to skip a lot of the barriers and the fall downs and all the breakdowns that we've experienced in business. So
Oh my God.
can you share
Yeah.
some of those things that you've been able to overcome and teach your students to do better?
Yeah, we're gonna need a few hours because that's the whole program. It's just every mistake I've ever made, just kind of round up for you. But yeah, I've literally spent over $200,000 making mistakes and just trying to figure things out and one of the biggest mistakes was chasing after all of these shiny objects. Like if I get this funnel, then I'll make $1 million. If I, buy this website, I'll make $1 million. If I do this, I'll make it, and it's just kind of like, all right, I'm over the $1 million thing. I really just want to focus on what it is that I can offer and the solution coming in. And the one thing that has benefited me in my business more than anything that's cost me absolutely nothing is to have partnerships with other nurses. And it was that simple. So ClickFunnels can take their funnels and shove it because I didn't need that funnel. I needed nurses to help me. So
Yes, yes. Great lessons, great lessons. But I think, again, highlighting the importance of working with a coach, highlighting the importance of working with somebody in your field that can mentor you, because there's a whole bunch of business coaches out here, but there's very few people that understand the business of nursing. And so I love what you offer. Thank you for creating Nursepreneur. And make sure you guys all check out katieharris.com to learn more. All right. Thank you,
thank
Catie.
you.